Hey cats, it's Ed Beardless Bud here. We're about to enter into a new year, 2025. It's going to bring some new challenges and some new races to get stuck into. What are my running goals for 2025? Let's get into it. Thanks for joining me, people. It's great to have you here. If you're new to the channel, please do hit that subscribe button. It's free of charge, don't you know? And also give this video a thumbs up like. Drop us a comment below as well and tell us what your running goals are for 2025. I'll be keen to see them. Dankeschön. So kicking off in February, I think we've got the Blackmore Vale Half Marathon. That's normally around about the first week of February. I've ran this one a number of times over the years. It starts off in a local village. I think it's a village, I don't think it's a town, called Bishop's Corndall. It's very close to my hometown of Yeovil, so I'll be able to just quickly get over there in the car before the race. Takes in some rolling countryside and some of the best Dorset scenery that money can buy. One time I ran this race, it had snowed actually, and there were some baby deers running across the fields. It was quite beautiful, in fact. It's got a punisher though of a last mile, which is all uphill, really tests the mental toughness. I mean, if you can finish that one and get through it with a decent time, especially with the slightly more difficult elevation here on the route, then you're probably good to give like the marathon distance a go. So I think it's a really good tester for later in the year for me. I think best time on that course around about 1:34:33. I think I can do much better than that. Most time I've ran this course, I tend to use it like as a training sort of event, like a session to build up the endurance and get some more sort of elevation in on my training. So that one's on Sunday, February the 2nd. Maybe I'll see you there. Next up on March 30th, we've got the Yeovil Half Marathon 2025. Can't wait for this one. I can get to the start line of that race in about 6 or 7 minutes. I can walk it, in fact. It's fantastic. Not many races you can do that. Last year in the Metaspeed Sky Paris blasted me to the fastest race time of that half distance ever for me. Really pleased with that performance even now, and somewhat unexpected really. I'd never thought I'd be able to get such a great time on a course again with quite a bit of elevation. This route's not the flattest, it has to be said, but I know every incline, bend and challenge on this one means I can have a fun race, and I've got bigger challenges coming up later in the year. In April there's a real big one, and I think the Yeovil Half will be a good test for that. I think I've got a good month between the Yeovil Half Marathon and the Manchester Marathon. I'm going to get onto that in a sec. So why not give this one a go? Maybe I can beat that 1:30 once and for all. Who knows? I was only about a minute off it last time. So PB for me there, 1:31:03. And there was even a headwind as we were going out on the first sort of 5-6 miles or so. Of course, that does give you an advantage coming back, you know, into the town centre. Let's see what I can produce this time out in March. Hope I'll see you there. I've signed up today. I think for the half I'm going to go for either 2 shoes. One of those is the Fast R Nitro Elite 2 from Puma. Just picking this up in hand, it's crazy light really compared to some of the other models out there. Such a huge amount of foam as well that you've got in the forefoot of this shoe, and I think considering the elevation that we've got on this course, that extended carbon plate here really does help on those climbs. Softness and the grip here are still stellar after 100 miles, so easily still a race option for me. That's pretty much the case with all Puma race shoes that I've tried out over the years. Now the other shoe that I might consider for the half is the Adios Pro 4. That is incoming. I did manage to buy a pair this morning. It wasn't particularly difficult trying to get hold of a pair. I thought it was going to be a mad rush, but it was fine. Start Fitness coming through with the early release. Hopefully they won't get into trouble for that. People do reckon this shoe is softer, but really my main requirement for the half marathon isn't softness, it's kind of response really. Do get that with this shoe. It's soft yet very responsive. Does seem to really propel you forward. I want some firm response there without it being overly squashy. Quite a lot of models, they're just sort of too compressive, I suppose. That's great if you're doing the marathon, but for the half marathon you want something a little different. So the Adios Pro 4 should arrive tomorrow. We'll see what it's made of in terms of half marathon pace, though of course with Lightstrike Pro always got to do a little bit of break in with that foam. So you'll get to see my unbiased review on that one hopefully very soon, within the next few days. I have dropped 220 quid on that, so yeah, hope it lives up to the hype. There's been some, you know, early shoe tuber videos where they've received free pairs and they've said it's the best thing since sliced bread. So we'll soon find out, won't we? On April the 27th, Rob Gundry and I are taking on the Manchester Marathon. It is the second largest marathon in the UK, fourth most popular in Europe, apparently. We'll be making up to of the expected 30,000 participants at the race. I'm in prime form right now, really. Probably best form I've ever had in my running sort of life. So it's a bit of a shame that it's not right now. You know, I'd quite happily get out there and do it right this minute. But of course, there's no such events locally at that distance available at this time of year. Nobody seems to want to race too hard this time of year. I don't know why. I love the sort of colder temperatures. It just seems to enable me to hit paces for a sustained period of time very easily. All the course info reckons that the Manchester route is one of the flattest out there, so of course I'm going to ramp up my hill training to make any elevation a little bit easier on the route. The info suggests it's only about 54 metres, I think it's about 177 foot there, so it's very low compared to the 750 foot that you've got on the YEOVIL Half Marathon, and of course that really puts it into perspective, doesn't it? My watch reckons on a decent flattish course I should be able to manage about 3 hours 15 for the marathon right now. I reckon that those predictions are pretty accurate, really. They're almost smack bang on my PRs, really, over the last sort of few months. 19:16 on the 5k, 40:29 on the 10k, and 1:28:55 on a half. So those all feel pretty reasonable as predictions go. Now, for the Manchester Marathon, there is one shoe very much in mind that I want to use. I've been holding this one back. I will get a long run into this, the Kipchoge edition of the Alphafly 3. This is a 10.5, but I found the fit is actually perfect, really. If I'm using a slightly lighter race sock, this one fits like a glove. This will be the shoe unless something does come along that completely blows my socks off. I'm not sure what that might be yet. Maybe that Saucony Endorphin Elite 2 sounds extremely soft. Yeah, this one really works for me and I know it, so it might be best to go with something that is tried and tested. I think I've run more miles in the Alphafly 3 over the last year than any other shoe in my rotation. As such, I think it's my best bet for a top quality performance at the Manchester Marathon. I really enjoyed the Bournemouth Half Marathon last year. It's a good course aside of the nasty steep hill that you've got around about mile 8, I think it is. And it's really well supported and super close to me as well. I can get there in an hour or so. So it's kind of cool to get over to Bournemouth, my old sort of stomping ground. I think I'll take this one on again. I reckon I can do way better than I did last time. 1:33:43 on my effort last year in 2024. I was plagued by some really bad stitch actually with about 3 miles to go. That caused me some real issues. So yeah, it was a bit of a disappointment, I suppose. I was on top form again, but just couldn't quite keep it going through to the end. Maybe I didn't take on enough water. I did have some coffee not long before the start of the race. Maybe that was the problem. Either way, I really want to get a better time on that one and get a little closer to 1:30 at least. There's some good local 10k events across the year. The Yeovilton Easter Bunny 10k, that's normally in April sometime, though the race isn't confirmed as of yet. And the very fast and well attended Martock 10k. That is a race I love doing. That was in June the 15th this year. I believe that they are opening up the entries for it very soon. It's like an out and back, a bit of a sort of figure 8 type shape, I suppose. Been holding the Metaspeed Edge Paris back for that race, or any other 10ks that pop up really. This one just seems to work well for me, as does the Sky Paris as well. I think it's only about 30 miles on this one, and it's close enough to my sort of favoured Sky Paris as well to actually give me that feel that you get from the foam. All about that foam here, it just really seems to work for me. And grip, as always, on the Metaspeed series is stellar. I'm not going to bother with the Bristol Half Marathon again. I've run that 3 times now. The first time I ran it was in September, back in 2021, I think it was. And the weather was perfect then. It wasn't too hot, but the last 2 times I've run it in May, and it's just been really warm. And to be honest with you, I've experienced like runners towards the end of that race who were collapsing in pretty bad states, and it just left me with some, you know, nasty memories, I suppose. It's not nice to see that. Weather conditions really do play a big part in the UK race scene, and it's a bit bizarre really why they've got that event with so many people on a route where there's very little shade at all. It just seems like a bad choice. I think if they moved it to September, it would solve a lot of the problems. Racing and training in those type of temperatures are a very different kettle of fish. You never get near your true race performance in warmer weather, at least if you're like a UK resident here. FOD runner knows what I'm talking about. Running in very hot weather like that, it just really destroys you. So it might not be hot for you wherever you come from, but over here about 15C is very hot. If you're trying to run like a sub 130 half, it's just not going to happen, or you're going to do yourself some damage. Give me like 3 or 4C any day. That's my preferred temperature. I love the cold weather. I think last year by the start of the race in Bristol it was about 16C average, and when Google reckons that 6C is like the best temperature really for a half marathon, and that just says it all, doesn't it? I've not raced a 5k, you know, like all out for some time now. Really should do. It might be good to get that in there now before I get into that significant marathon training. Got about 17 or 16 weeks from the marathon now, so maybe I can fine-tune the 5k pace with some 1k reps. The pool parkrun is nearby to me, so that could be a good option if I want to make an attempt at beating my 5k PB. So that's about 1946, I think. So easily room to improve on that one and get closer to like 1930. A little further down maybe. Hard to do on my local routes due to like bends and like dog hazards and fences that I've got to navigate. So might plot a route out to Poole soon. I did look at one of the parkrun listings. It's like the 3rd fastest parkrun in the UK. It's only about an hour for me to travel over there, so pretty easy journey by any stretch. The Adios 9, probably a really good shoe to use for that 5k attempt. It's mega light and the grip has actually proved to be pretty decent now I've got some more miles into the shoe, and the foam's softened up somewhat. Really does help to improve the cadence and the turnover. What a fantastic shoe, and it looks the part as well. I think if Adidas can release a more sort of lifestyle orientated colourway for this one, they will clean up. So looking a little bit further afield later into the year to perhaps get over to Europe or maybe even somewhere else. If you've got any great suggestions in terms of like half marathon distance trips that I can do, then let me know down in the comments. Be great to get over to Europe again. I really feel at home in Europe. I think with the Polish sort of heritage I've got, every time I get over to Europe I just feel, I don't know, like I belong there, I suppose. Okay, that's my 2025 running goals. Some of the events there. Hopefully I might get to meet a few of the audience, a few of the viewers. It would be fantastic. Let me know your running goals down in the comments. A very quick musical interlude for you. I came across a real banger on the Apple Music app. Live in Boston 1982. The complete concert from George Thorogood and the Destroyers. This is absolute rock and roll gold. Starts off at blistering pace and hardly lets up through the whole of the 2 hours. It's magic stuff if you're out there running. There's lots of like solos and instrumental sections where the Destroyers really ramp things up and you can really push on. It gives you a bit of impetus to really, you know, turn up the pace. The House of Blue Lights right at the start of the concert is just absolutely brilliant. Some cool Gibson semi-acoustic guitar playing from George Thorogood, and the saxophone breaks are just... And of course he ends the whole thing off with Reelin' and Rockin', the old Chuck Berry cover, which, you know, never gets boring. So if you want some good old school rock and roll from 1982, go and check this one out. Live in Boston, George Thorogood and the Destroyers. Thanks for tuning in, people. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you're yet to do so, please help us out to reach 1 million subscribers. Bit of a way off yet, but we'll get there. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up like. Also drop us a comment to help with the algorithm. My name's Eddbud and I'll be seeing you. Bit of a beard trimming related accident. Did it a bit too short and it just looked really stupid, so I just got rid of it. I think it's taken years off me.